The van build you're going to see now is what we would call here in Cornwall a proper job.
Alright, I think it's time for an update. So we've been working on getting all the cabinets and drawers done. So they are finally all painted and varnished, and they have their handles on them, which look lovely. So these all need the drawer slides put on them. So that's what Callan's gonna do today. And I'm just gonna finish up doing the cupboard doors. So these guys have just been varnished. Can put the handles on these ones. Those will go in as soon as I finish painting the ceiling. So it's like a couple of steps that need to happen before these can go in, but all the finishing work's getting really close. So it'd be really nice to get these out of the garage and into the van. So hopefully today.
Righto, so in our workshop today we have all of our finishing things drying nicely. We have all of our drawers that Meghan has painted and varnished for me. These are our upper cabinet fronts. This panel goes in front of our hot water heater. And then at the back, I've just finished varnishing up all of our countertops. So this guy goes on the sink side. This here is our table. Goes in our lagoon mount, just down there. And these two are either side of the stove. And we have bench tops. Alright, so we have got our first side, the cutting station, most likely where I will be sitting and standing during our meal prep time. We have where our oven is located. This is above our fridge, so again another prep station and nice spot for all our stuff. Third bit of bench space with our sink. Now I'm super happy how this came out. This is really nice and smooth and oiled really well. And finally we have our table. So it's nice to finally have this beast in. Just a suspended table. It's a lagoon. Looks after itself and can swivel. So it can both turn on itself and on its own. So you can really get out of the way and do pretty much whatever you want with it. So super nice, super sturdy, keeps some of the theme in the maple, and yeah, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. So on the back of our countertop, the one that has the sink, I wanted to have a bit of an upstand backsplash area, this guy. Because of the window, we basically have a space that goes in and behind the sink area. So just in case we splashed any water, we really want to try and minimize any splashing as much as possible. Now this sink is pretty deep, and our faucet, which is over there, is going to be a really nice one that's kind of way into it, and you can pull this guy down and spray everything inside. So we should have minimal water. Now originally I was going to have tile, just like up here on the side. The problem I came across though was I had very minimal space with the ability to build a frame to support the sink, and then it gave me much less space for my faucet, and then of course the window itself. So that's going to be a lot thinner. I didn't actually have room for this tile backerboard to go here, and I still think I have just the right amount of room for something, but not quite the tile and mortar. So instead what I've done is I've made up a piece of just plain maple, and I've given it the same oiling as I have the countertop. Now just down here along the bottom, I've just put clear silicone all the way around. So we're going to press this piece here down into it, and that's going to give us a nice seal so no water can sneak underneath. And this guy is just glued, as it is quite thin. I don't want to have any screws exposed here looking not as nice. So what we're going to do is just put this on and clamp it. These guys and this rod, just clamp it all together, hold it on, and that should turn out quite nicely. Alright, so this morning's goal is to chuck in a bit of the cabinetry. So Megan has been working really hard on getting all of our upper cabinet doors finished. So we have all of our kind of handles to go in, all of our recesses have been made. We have completed this guy here, which is a super nice one. This is a vent, basically, and it matches nicely. If I can turn the bloody camera, it matches nicely with our vent covers for our furnace system. We also have behind me here all of our drawers. So these guys are basically getting final coats of varnish and top coats, and any areas that needed to be filled or just made pretty again. These drawers, we have our 8 drawers. They're all finished. They're ready to go. I just need to install now the sides. Basically, there's like an extra panel that goes on the side of the cabinetry on the inside, and that catches the drawer runners. So that's me next putting them in, and I just have a little final bit of running of conduit to protect all the wires that I've put in there so far. The side rails are now in. These are the supports that will hold on to the drawer slides. So that's these guys over here. They're about to go in next. So inside my cabinetry, you can see on the left and the right hand side I have these bars. And these bars, give or take, are flush with the face panels on the cabinetry. Now there may be a mill out. I've measured back or forth because sometimes the overhang and the size of the drawer, don't exactly correlate. So there have been, like, I add a millimeter or two here or there to adjust for those. And these guys are in. We have 8 of these. This is the back of our central kind of console area, the bit at the front where you'll get to our dimmer switch and our LED strip lights. So these sliders will go on, and once the drawer slides are in, we will finish up and tidy up all this wiring. I am super stoked to get onto one of the last things that we need to do. There's a bunch of small stuff, but one of the main big areas. So behind me and on the opposite side of the van, I have the last 2 areas of tiling. And yeah, super exciting because it gets color into the van, which is really nice, and it gets this finished grey out of the way. So this side in here is where the stove is going to be. So I've just covered this with paper and just covered the maple countertop. We're going to tile all this, which hopefully shouldn't take too long. I've pre-cut as much as I can. There'll be some guys underneath which will need to be kind of reduced. So they might take a little bit of time at the end, and also when I get to this guy, I'm going to have to cut a hole, and we'll see how that comes about. With any luck, it's nice and easy, so that should be good fun. Alright, so we have done the side with the oven. Now I'm on to the tiling on the side with the sink. So sink is under this paper just to protect it in case I drop any mortar. Now this side's got polyurethane sealant over all of the wetty fasteners. So this board plus the sealant actually makes this thing waterproof. Now I'm not going to put red guard on, we don't need it. It doesn't need to be a fully waterproof system. This whole board is waterproof. The tiles themselves will be waterproof. The sealed bench top is essentially waterproof for the amount of water that it's going to get, just splashes and stuff here and there. So we've sealed the backsplash, which is behind the sink in front of the windows. This guy is also sealed on this line in between the bench top and the board, so water can't get under, and then we will seal again around the perimeter of all of these tiles.
So we're on to the final tiling. So Callan did all the tile the other day, so I just need to grout. So we've got the kitchen tile behind the stove. I've got it all covered in plastic right now, but that's where the stove goes in between, and countertop is all covered. And also next to the sink, we've got some grouting to do. So it's one of the final projects, and it shouldn't take me very long. After doing the shower, this should be pretty quick. So I'm gonna get this done, let it dry for about 24 hours, and then we're almost done. So it's one of the last steps. looking pretty good. So one side down and one to go. Just finished grouting. So this has to sit, so we won't drive the van anywhere for a couple days, which is just fine because we've got plenty of work to do here. And another look at this side. Oh, it looks so good. Really happy with how it's all turned out. So we will be next working on some floor trim. We just finished the ceiling, which is cool. So we've got the lights installed, the ceiling fan installed. Everything's been wired, so we have to test all of our electrics, so that'll be fun actually plugging everything in. Callan's been wiring up everything underneath the stove side of the van. So having a look down in here, you can see these blue conduits. That has all of the wiring that comes out into these plugs, or not plugs, but switches. So this will control the LED lights, and this one's going to be a dimmer control for the overhead lights. So underneath the stove, we've got our propane, which is the conduit wrapped in black tape. And then we have all the wiring, which you can see coming out those 4 holes at the top. And down at the bottom, that red wire is what will connect to our car battery. So that's when we need to draw power from the car battery for our house batteries, just in case we aren't getting enough sun for the solar system. And behind the stove, again, there's that red wire that connects back up into our batteries, and a 110 volt plug, which is how our fridge will run.
So wiring wise, we're making quite a bit of progress. We have most of the wires in. We just had a little bit of filling going up over here, so this final wire can go in. This fan, this guy's wired in. We've got the light that is in the bathroom, that's all done. And now we start working on our power points and our kind of plugs and stuff. So to the left of the van and the bed, I'm gonna have a USB charger port there. So basically all I need to charge there is a phone. So I have my little shelf, which is good for coffee cup, phone, that kind of stuff. Over here at the end of our first cabinetry bench, we have here the thermostat, which is gonna be for our furnace. And then 110, so if I was ever using a computer, I can use it there, or if we're using anything on top of the workspace like a blender or a coffee maker or anything electric you want, that can go on here. Down below we have our this is our hot water thermostat and control, so less needed, and I wanted that kind of out of the way. I wanted the least amount of stuff over here, so this is just above our cushion height, at a space where, you know, I'm not going to kick it because it's further enough away from me. And then below that we have our carbon monoxide and CO2 detector. So basically it tells if we're gassing ourselves up or if there's a gas leak. So either one of those will get detected by that. So that guy can run on batteries, but we've got it hardwired in, and that runs in through some wires that get up and over the van. This side, just needing a couple of holes drilled, is going to be our other 110 socket. So we got 4 of them all up in the van. One for me, one for cooking, one underneath here, just going to house the fridge. So that's our finished product. There's one stage back because we're going to paint and then we can put the cap on. This guy, which will be great for using all of our kind of electronic-y type stuff up here. Again, if you need a blender or a coffee maker, it gets plugged in there. And then our final one is over on what I would say is the master side of the bed. So this is a USB charger for phones and stuff. This is again a 110 volt, and this is a whole bunch of wires that will lead to the switch for the lights. So we wanted to have a way to turn off the lights in bed. So I just wanted to go through what I've done with these wires. This is 12 gauge triplex marine wire. Basically it is the same as house wire, but it's all kind of rubber coated and marine proof, which is great. But the most important thing for me is that the wire itself inside here is stranded, because it means that it's easy to use. So to wire one of these bad boys up, is more simple than it looks. If you had 14 gauge wire, we could plug it in the holes, but we have 12, it's too big. Now if it was a house, they would just use a method of hooking the wire in like this and screwing down to clamp it. But I don't like that way so much with the van, seeing as I like to get everything super tight and secure, and just in a way that makes sure that nothing can go wrong, you know, as best chances we have. So what I do is I strip the wires down, all three of them. You've got your green, which is your ground, your black, which is your hot, which is the equivalent most of the time to red, positive, and your white, which is called a neutral when in this system, and that's going to be equivalent basically to our black. So we've got black wire goes on this side, white wire goes on this side, and the ground wire goes on here. Now because there are two sockets, that's why there's two screws, but this piece of metal in the middle joins them, so as long as you wire one, they will both work. If you wanted them to not work, you could snap that off with a screwdriver, and then they're both separate. So what I've done here is snip the wires, basically pulled the wiring back, stripped it, crimped on a 12 gauge ring terminal. I like ring terminals best because they're solid. I like crimping stuff together because it's more solid than wrapping it around. And then what I do is I go over with heat shrink tubing just to make sure everything's really secure. So that one I'm just about to do, and what it will look like is this. We have, on Megan's side of the bed, we've changed our switches. Our switches before were incorrect. We've finally got some new ones. So that is our switch, and that runs the main overhead lights, Megan's outlet to charge laptops and the like, and a USB charger to charge your phones. We have also done quite a bit with the wiring. So I'm finishing up today the last little things that I'm getting in the mail. It's going to keep me entertained. We have our inverter. The inverter is attached to our 4 outlets. The outlets have been wired to normal 3-prong plugs and plugged in the back. So the inverter is essentially always on when we turn it on, and it'll just draw power when we need it from any of these silver outlets. We have the batteries, and so we have basically a fully set up system, minus I haven't connected the batteries together here, and I'm missing one fuse that's coming in the mail. What we have here, in hopefully the easiest form, is we have this guy coming in from the inverter. The inverter runs to its own fuse and then runs to one of the batteries. So all of the negatives are pretty much going straight to their own terminals. We have here this black one is from the charge controller. And the charge controller again goes through its own fuse, runs down to a positive on one of our batteries. This third one is from the fuse panel into a fuse that we don't yet have, and that'll run again into a positive of a battery. We have the negative running to the negative, and the positive will run to the positive, and that'll put the batteries in parallel. So that means we have these two 200 amp hour batteries that are 12 volts each. It doesn't double the voltage, it keeps it at 12 volts, but doubles the running time to 400. And the final wire that we have is this guy. That is from the auxiliary battery charger. So that basically will connect us up to the battery in the front of the van, so that if there's any problems, you can get these guys to jump that battery, or that battery will charge these batteries when we're driving around. And then what we have is the main hub of activity, which is a whole bunch of chaos now, but will look pretty very shortly. All of these smaller wires, the positive and negatives from the 12 volt system, will run into the fuse panel. And we have here, coming from the bottom, the black and the red. These guys run up into the fuse panel. So the black is straight on, the red goes to an on-off switch, And I like to have an on-off switch in each of the systems, basically to disconnect from anything with power. So I thought I'd run through a little bit of the organized chaos that we are currently going through. It's actually really, we're doing really well. The conditions just look pretty crazy. So outside we have had masses of snow. Huge amounts of snow, which is a great time to test out the heater. As you can see, we're all snowed in. And it's been like this for, about a week. And the beauty is that our water inside the van has not frozen. So as we're not living in it, we're not kind of heating this place up overnight. It's getting really cold and the water is doing just fine. So I'm stoked with that. As you can see, gloves taking a beating. We have a water system that fully works right now. So forgive the slant. We are holding a bit of water because I'm parked on an angle, but we have a tap. Does its job. It's great. This guy's fancy. Pulls on down, sprays nice shower water. We have a shower. This guy works also. Let's see if I can do this without getting sprayed. No, that's a lie actually. I have turned off the taps underneath there. So we've just gone through and tested that whole system. So it all works. You're gonna have to take my word for it at this moment. What else do we have? I am doing a final gas leak test. So going through all of my gas connections, I'm just about to do that. So we have one here, which is for the oven, as you can see. We have a guy down here, which is the back of the water heater. And then we have a third one, which goes through the top over there of the furnace, and I access that from the outside. And then on top of that, so we're going to leak detect all of our joints and make sure nothing's going on. And then I just have to slide under the van and check each of the connections that I've currently put in. What else do we have that's nice news? We have working outlets. So we have 8 outlets. We have a fridge installed. This guy was actually a bit more difficult than I wanted, based on how much room we have, but this is looking amazing. We've got a bunch of room, decent size, a small freezer, so Megan and I don't need too much in the way of frozen goods, but it is available. As you can see, we have some of our lights on. These LED strips are looking especially nice, keeping the place glowing and warm looking. Our furnace does go. We've tested that last night. That's all working, so we'll put that all back together. And then I think one of the last things that we have on top of our sockets that are kind of everywhere and all tucked in now is our circuit board. So where I had this last time was not with this guy installed. We have our solar panels currently working, but not very much. They are completely covered in snow. And we have the tidier version of our fuse panel. So that's all groovy now. And this guy, which I just installed and I just need to screw back into here, is a switch for the pump. I just wanted to have something to turn it off really easily, rather than having to open up the fuse panel and pull a fuse out. So we have a cutoff switch for our fuse panel. These red and black wires run straight to the battery. We have a cutoff switch to our solar panels, so we can stop charge coming down. And we have a cutoff switch in between the batteries and the charge controller.
Right, so it's currently what we call Snowmageddon in Seattle. We have like half a foot of snow, more than that, on the ground. And we're so close to finishing the van, so I'll show you inside what we've got done so far. So we have, knock off some snow. So we have all of our systems running now. Tested all the electricity. all the propane, so the stove, the furnace, water heater, and all the plumbing, so everything's working. Now the last little bits we have to do are just painting, like painting little small spots, filling a couple holes, and it's really just finishing work now. Just hung our curtain today. So this is made out of the same stuff that'll be on the windows. So it has the insulated curtain shade on the inside, and then this blackout material on the outside. So they're all sewn together, and they have magnets in the sides that connect onto these steel bars. So there's one on the door side, and then there's one right behind the driver's seat too. So that strip there is also steel.
So we have finally done it. This van is finished, packed, and all ready to go. And after what seems to be too many months, but probably all up 4 months.
5 months.
5 months if you include the mechanical, and a bit of waiting time. We are done and we're ready to go.
All right, looking at the back of the van. So right now the bed is in couch mode with the table up. As you can see, we've got our 2 cushions that will go down to make the bed. They're just along the back side of the couch at the moment. And our pillows and blankets are all there. We've got cupboards up here, so kind of more bedding and clothes up above. Everything's kind of jam-packed at the moment, so we're still gonna have to figure out a few things in terms of storage. Got our charge controller at 100% because it's beautiful and sunny outside. And all of our food in the upper cabinets just above the stove and sink. So really happy with the kitchen. There's actually a lot of storage. Fridge is all loaded up. We've got drawers underneath. So the drawers, this one is, let's find out if I can remember. Got all of our plates and bowls and mugs. And on the bottom, some more of our kind of cooking equipment. So pots and pans, our tea kettle. And then this one's a bit of cutlery, trash bin, and some more kind of cooking materials down there. On the sink side, we have a couple drawers underneath. So we're storing all of our towels in this one, and at the bottom is kind of a mixture of things. It's a deeper drawer, quite tall as well, so we can fit some of the bigger items down there. And cutlery drawer in here. And then this one's actually a door, so it opens up to all of our almond milks. This is our coffee cupboard, right next to the water heater. And shower. So shower is equipped with our Dometic toilet. So this is a cassette toilet, which I think eventually we'll be upgrading to a nature-side composting toilet. So that's what this is. This is all rigged to be able to transform into a composting toilet. So this is shower, which we haven't yet used. Very exciting, and skylight up above.
Hello.
What'd you do today, Callan?
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Hi, you may have seen me from previous renovation shows as how to make a cabinet using 19 easy and difficult steps.